All right, y'all. Revelations chapter 11. Okay. What does Revelation chapter 11 mean? This chapter introduces two prophets referred as the two witnesses. Their message, supernatural power, death, and resurrection are dramatic moments in the story of the end times. Their influence precedes the end of the trumpet judgment and sets the stage for the final series, the seven bowl judgment. John is first given a measuring device and told to measure the temple, altar, and worshippers. Measuring in that era was symbolic of ownership. Only those who had rights to something, land, a building, or people, were allowed to measure them. As part of this task, John is told that the outer court of the temple is not to be measured. This area, occupied by the nations, which is the term for the Gentiles, is a part of trampling experienced by Jerusalem in the end times, Revelations 11 1 through 2. God next introduces two unidentified witnesses who stand in Jerusalem and proclaim him. Obviously, at this time, the message will not be well received. However, the men are supernaturally protected. Everyone who tries to hurt them is obliterated by fire from the witnesses' own mouths. These men are also able to bring various plagues upon earth, such as drought, and that is Revelations 11 3 through 6. Finally, these two men will be murdered by the beast that rises from the bottomless pit. Most interpreters believe this is the same beast described in Revelation chapter 13, also referring to the Antichrist. To the unbelieving world, this will seem like a major victory. Their leader will have defeat those claiming to speak for God. The world will be so overjoyed at this triumph that they will celebrate and exchange gifts while leaving the bodies to rot in the streets. Thanks to modern technology, it's entirely possible that people across the entire world can see these events happening in real time. Revelations 11 7 through 10. After 3.5 days, however, the joy of the world will turn into shock and horror. God will resurrect the two witnesses in full view of the world, announced by a voice and carried by a cloud. They will be taken into heaven. At the same time, a massive earthquake will strike Jerusalem, destroying a tenth of the city and killing 7,000. Those who survive will not honor God deliberately, but their fearful reactions will demonstrate His glory. That's Revelations 11, verses 11 to 13. Earlier, those reading Revelation were warned about certain woes yet to come. The first and second of those were the fifth and sixth trumpet judgment, respectively. These were far worse than the terrible trumpet judgments that came before. The third woe will be inaugurated with the seventh trumpet, just as the seven trumpet judgments were all a part of the seventh seal. The seventh trumpet will contain individual events known as the bowl judgment. In the meantime, as the seventh trumpet sounds, heaven praises God for his righteous judgment on evil. And that's Revelations 11 14 through 19. The next few chapters will discuss seven major figures in the end time, including the Antichrist and the false prophet. Chapter 16 will resume the sequence of judgments and begin bringing the book of Revelation to a close. I'm not ready for it to close. Okay, so chapter contents. The 11th chapter of Revelation provides information about an event that transpires between the sounding of the sixth and seventh trumpets. It involves two powerful witnesses that God raises up in the middle of the tribulation. These two witnesses minister throughout the second half of the tribulation. They are martyred, but God raises them up and lifts them to heaven. Concurrent with their assist, concurrent with their rising to heaven, because I cannot pronounce that word. A mighty earthquake destroys 1/10 of Jerusalem and kills 7,000 people. This is the second woe. The first woe is described in chapter 9 as an invading of army of locusts. So my part 2 of the verse of the chapter breakdown is Revelations chapter 11 primarily focuses on God's divine judgment in the ministry of two witnesses who prophesied during a period of tribulation. The chapter describes their power, their persecution, and their ultimate triumph through resurrection, symbolizing God's ultimate victory over death and evil. It also highlights the beginning of God's reign and the destruction of those who destroy the earth. So, more breakdown. Measuring the temple. John is instructed to measure the temple, altar, and worshiper, representing God's focus on spiritual conditions of his people and his protection of them. He is told not to measure the outer court, which will be trampled by the Gentiles for a time. The two witnesses, two prophets empowered by God, prophesied for 1,260 days, 3.5 years, clothed in sackcloth, symbolizing repentance and mourning. They have the power to perform miracles, including summoning fire from heaven and striking the earth with plagues. Their ministry is a witness to the world, calling people to repentance, persecution, and death. At the end of their testimony, the witnesses are killed by the beast from the bottomless pit, often interpreted as the Antichrist, and their bodies are left in the street of Jerusalem. Resurrection and ascension, that's the word. After 3.5 days, God resurrects the witnesses as they ascend to heaven in a cloud, witnessed by their enemies. Earthquake and judgment. A great earthquake follows, destroying 1/10 of Jerusalem, killing 7,000 people. The seventh trumpet. The sounding of the seventh trumpet announces the beginning of God's reign, with voices in heaven proclaiming that the kingdoms of this world, have become the kingdoms of the Lord and His Christ. The 24 elders worship God, and the temple in heaven is open. So, interpretation, literal versus symbolic. Some interpretations view the two witnesses are literal individuals, perhaps Elijah and Moses, while others see them as symbolic of church or the prophetic ministry time frame. This chapter is generally placed within the tribulation period, specifically the latter half, but interpretations differ on its precise timing and duration. Focus on Jerusalem. The chapter emphasizes Jerusalem as a focal point of God's dealing with his people in the world. So, overall meaning, Revelations 11, chapter 11, emphasizes that even in times of tribulation and persecution, God's witnesses will stand firm. Their ministry will be effective, and ultimately, God's victory will be revealed. It points to the final triumph of Christ and the establishment of his eternal reign. That's so good. All right, y'all. I'll see you guys later. Bye.